Hi, how is it going? Welcome to Code with Z. Today's problem is LeetCode number 27, remove element. And it's quite wordy. As you can see, we're given a long description that I'm going to simplify for you. So let's start from the beginning. And first of all, I want you to know that I'll fully explain and visualize all of the algorithm in the coming slides. But for the sake of reading the question itself, let's actually see what the question is actually asking us for. So in this question, we're basically given an array of numbers and an integer called val. And we gotta remove all of the occurrences of val inside of our nums. But this removing process has to be done in place, meaning we can't just make a new array and add all of the numbers that are not equal to our value to that new array. We have to do it in place. Now, if we scroll down to check our examples here, as you can see, this is our array of numbers and this is our value. Our value is 2. And as you can see, in the number array, we have 1, 2, 3 occurrences of the number that we don't want, right? But if you check our output is not the array, it's a number. And this number here is representing an index. What does this mean? This index number here says that if we get our array of numbers after we've actually applied our algorithm to it, and we check all of the numbers until the index of 5, all of those numbers are not gonna be equal to value. Well, let's check that. Index of 5 is gonna be, so this is index of 0, this is index of 1, this is index of 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So this is the index of 5. This output says if we check all of the numbers that come before the index of 5, they should not be equal to our value, which is equal to 2 here. Well, let's check that. This is 0, this is 1, this is 4, this is 0, and this is 3. Well, would you look at that? That was correct. So it really matters how we come up with this number here, and we're gonna call it k. Alrighty, let's solve this together, and I want you to know that I'll explain and visualize everything, and I won't finish this video until I make sure you fully understand how to solve this problem once and for all. These slides took me ages to build, but I hope it provides you with value. Now, this is our array of numbers, and this is the value that we don't want, right? Let's first agree on something. We all saw that we need to return a k variable, right? Well, what should this k variable be equal to in the beginning? As we saw, this k variable is representing an index, right? So what should it be equal to in the beginning? It should be 0. Why? Because in the beginning, we've not actually looped through our array, so we don't know how many numbers we have that are not equal to our value here. So we're just gonna assume that we have nothing, right? And when we loop, we're gonna be like, oh, we do actually have a number that's not equal to the value that we don't want. So let's increment k, and that's gonna be k. So the only thing you need to know now is that k is gonna be equal to 0 in the beginning. Now I'll explain the structure of our algorithm and then I'll visualize everything. So we all know that we gotta check our values one by one to see if they're equal to value or not. So that means we're gonna need a loop. This is representing a loop and this is gonna be a for loop. So because it's a for loop, it's gonna have a variable called I, and this I is gonna increment on each round. Inside of this for loop, we're gonna loop through each number, right? So numbers of I on each round is gonna be one of these numbers. So in the beginning, it's gonna be this 0, then it's gonna be this 2, and then it's gonna be this 6, and so on and so forth. So we're gonna say, is numbers of I, meaning the number that we're currently looping through inside of our array, not equal to the value that we don't want? So is it basically a number that we want? If it is a number that we want, we're gonna say numbers of k should be equal to numbers of I. What does this mean? This says get our array, which is this array, the k index of that array, which is equal to 0 in the beginning, should be equal to the number that we want, meaning we're putting this number that we want inside of the beginning of our array. If something is still not fully clear, don't worry because I'll visualize all of this, but what you need to know is that we're gonna basically put all of the numbers that we want in the beginning of our array. You're gonna see how this works in the visualization. It's super easy, and then after it, we're gonna say increment k. If we come across another number that we wanna keep, we gotta add it to the beginning of our array, so this k has to increment each time we add a number to the beginning. So we actually move on to the next slot that we wanna add a number to. And then at the end, we're gonna return our k. Now, let's visualize everything. So as you can see, we are in the first round of our for loop, right? And our I is equal to 0, and because I is equal to 0, nums of I is gonna be pointing to this number here, because this is the number with the index of 0. So here we ask ourselves, is nums of I, meaning 0, as you can see 0, not equal to value? Well, our value is 2. So is 0 not equal to 2? Well, this statement is correct. So we're gonna get inside of our if statement and we're gonna say the number at the k index inside of our array should be equal to the number we wanna keep. So we're gonna say numbers of 0 should be equal to the number that we want to keep. Well, as you can see, this number is currently swapping itself with itself, but don't worry about it because this algorithm actually fully works, and this swapping itself by itself is not going to cause us any harm. So we're going to put this number here, and then after we're done with this, we're going to increment our k, and then we're going to move on to the next round. As you can see, we are in the second round and our I is 1 because because it got incremented because of the for loop. And now numbers of I is gonna be pointing to this number here, which is 2. So we're gonna say is numbers of I, which is 2, not equal to value, which is 2. Well, as you can see, this statement is false because 2 is equal to 2. So we're not gonna enter our if statement and we're gonna move on to the next round. In our third round, our I is gonna be equal to 2 because it got incremented, and now numbers of I is gonna be pointing to this number here. So we're gonna say is numbers of I, which is 6, not equal to value, which is 2. Well, 6 is not equal to 2, and this is correct. So we're going to enter our if statement and we're going to say the number at the index of k, meaning this number here, as you can see, should be equal to the number that we want to keep, which is this 6 here. So let's do that. We're going to put this 6 inside of this, and after we're done with this, we're going to increment our k, like so. And then we're going to move on to the next round. Did you see how it worked? It actually puts all of the numbers that we want in the beginning of the array. Now in our fourth round, as you can see, this is the fourth round of our for loop, and our I is going to be equal to 3 because it just got incremented. Now numbers of I is pointing to this number here because this is the number with the index of 3 and our I is 3. So is numbers of I, meaning 2, not equal to 2? Well, they are equal, so this statement is gonna be false, and we're gonna move on to the next round. In our fifth round, our I is gonna be equal to 4, and it's gonna be pointing to this number here. So we're gonna say is numbers of I, meaning 3, not equal to 2? Well, as you can see, this statement is correct. 3 is not equal to 2, so we're gonna enter our if statement, and we're gonna say the number at the index of k, which is this number here, as you can see, because k is 2, so nums of 2 is gonna be this number, should be equal to the number that we wanna keep, like so. So we're going to put this 3 here. And then after we're done with this, we're going to increment our k. So let's do that. Then we're going to move on to the next round. Now we're currently in the 6th round of our for loop. Our I is 5. So we're going to say if nums of I, meaning this 0, because this is the number with the index of 5, is not equal to 2. Well, as you can see, again, this statement is correct. 0 is not equal to 2. We're going to enter our if statement, and then we're going to say the number at the index of k, meaning the number at the index of 3, should be equal to the number that we want to keep, which is nums of I. So the number at the index of 3 should be equal to 0. Let's do that, like so, and then we're going to increment our k and then move on to the next round. In this round, our I is 6, so it's pointing to this number here. We're going to say if numbers of I not equal to value, enter the if statement. Well, let's see. Numbers of I is going to be 4, and our value is 2. 4 is not equal to 2, so this statement is correct. We're going to enter our if statement, and we're going to get the number at the index of k, which is this number here, and we're going to say it should be equal to the number that we want to keep. Well, that's 4. So let's put this 4 here, like so. And then after it, we're going to increment our k. Then we're going to move on to the 8th round, and in this round, our I is going to be equal to 7, so it's going to be pointing to this number here. We're going to check if numbers of I is not equal to value. Well, would you look at that? 2 is equal to 2. So this statement is gonna be false, and we're not gonna enter our if statement, and because this was the last number, we're gonna exit our loop, and then we're gonna return k, like so. And this case says that all of the numbers before the index of k are all numbers that are not equal to the value that we do not want. Well, let's check that. K is equal to 5, so let's find the number with the index of 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So k is basically pointing to this number here, and it says all of the numbers before this number are going to be numbers that are not equal to the value that we do not want. Well, let's check that. 0 is not equal to 2, 6 is not equal to 2, 3 is not equal to 2, 0 is not equal to 2, and 4 is not equal to 2. If we compare our result array to the array that we had in the beginning, we can see that we have all of the numbers that are not equal to 2 in the beginning of our array, like so. Now let's code this in the simplest way possible. Alrighty, so first of all, we're gonna define our k variable, and that's gonna be equal to 0, just like we saw on the slides. And then below it, we're gonna have our for loop. Again, just like we saw on the slides, this is gonna be let I being equal to 0. We wanna keep on looping as long as I is less than nums.length. And then we wanna keep on incrementing I on each round. We're gonna enter our for loop, and here we're gonna have our logic or our if statement, and we're gonna say if nums of I is not equal to the number that we don't want to keep, meaning value, enter this if statement. Here we're going to say the number at the index of k should be equal to the number that we want to keep, which is nums of I. Then below this, we're going to increment our k, and then we're going to return our k variable here. And this is it. Now let me zoom out a bit and let's run it and see if we're going to pass our tests. Yep, as you can see, both of them are passed. Now let's submit it. Moment of truth. Drum roll, please. I'm just kidding. Let's see if we're gonna pass it. Yep, and we're beating 54% of all of the other submissions. That's awesome. Our time complexity is gonna be off, and because we only have one for loop, so let's check that. Yep, O of n. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and keep on coding.